say the truth, and exactly the truth, the way I lived it in Iraq. And as I said in the Congress, I'm prepared to say what I'm saying or not before any court of law. In fact, as a matter of propaganda, I was asked to deliver a letter to the Iraqi government to sort of certify that they are giving the right medical treatment to the residents against some favors. And just for a government to request the United Nations to certify that they are behaving well in Ashraf against allowing me to access detainees and other issues of human rights. So this is a testimony I'm making, and I will do it or not, where Ashrafis were actually deprived, denied access to hospitals, and yet I was tapped on the shoulder and said, give us the letter. So this is the kind of environment we dealt with the Ashraf issue, Ashraf file. And let me say from the very beginning that the United Nations, including my office, the Office of the United Nations Mission for Assistance to Iraq, the Human Rights Office was the office directly concerned with the situation in Ashraf, and we were there to monitor human rights and humanitarian situation. But we did create and did contribute into disseminating, or rather sticking a stigma to the Ashrafis. This stigma was first created in certain reports, of course, with two governments behind it, the government of Iran and government of Iraq. Then you all know about those reports that came out, one by the Human Rights Watch, the second by the RAND, a commissioned committee by the Pentagon to sort of enlighten Pentagon about the situation in Ashraf. But in fact, these two reports, together with the United Nations reports, have perpetrated the stigma against the Ashrafis. All the concepts that were put to the Ashrafis, from being a cult to being terrorists to being this and that. And believe me, that's when I first took the position of Chief of Human Rights Office in Baghdad. I went through that direction. I was briefed, and during all my induction, is that be careful, you are dealing with a group of terrorists. And I started my job really with this kind of perception that I have in front of me a file of terrorists. And I kept following the issues for 3 years and a half. During the 3 years and a half, I never received any allegation from the Ashrafis that did not turn true. And I had never dealt with an allegation from the government of Iraq that did not turn to be false. Including when I went to do the body count when the massacre of 36 people happened. I went to Ashraf, I did the body count, I went back to Baghdad. And together with the US Ambassador Butler, we went to the Chief of Staff of al-Maliki, together with his National Security Advisor and the political advisor, plus the Office of human rights within the Prime Minister's office. I showed them their file, and I said to them, there are 36 bodies, 36 people killed. And they looked at each other as if I'm fabricating the story. I showed them the film. They didn't want to see it. I requested an inquiry. They said to me, we will do the inquiry our way. What is their way of inquiry? I sat down with them in Prime Minister's office. They showed me a number of grenades, pictures, grenades and some light weapons, pistols and Kalashnikov. A picture, put on the table a picture. And they showed me that picture as evidence that there are weapons in Camp Ashraf, and those weapons have been used to kill Ashrafis themselves. So those pictures, I know that they're not even properly done. It's just any picture you could collect from any resource. But never mind. Those pictures were used and distributed to the embassies in Baghdad, together with some statements. Those statements were statements of the security forces who were involved in the incident, in the attack. And that was the investigation made by the government of Iraq. And the United Nations was very happy. They called for an investigation. There is an investigation. There is a report. And that was the end of the matter. The United Nations had never requested again a report. They had never tried to do anything about it. And I kept reminding the Secretary General's Special Representative that we have to be consistent in our practice. We have to be consistent in our reports. When we requested an independent inquiry, we can't just forget it. It has to take place. But it never took place. 36 people were dead. And also, another testimony that I have to do is that the 36 people were kept 41 days and buried in a makeshift morgue under the kind of temperatures you know in Iraq. So I kept every day asking the Iraqis to give permission to bury them. And here again, I was asked to deliver a letter to the Iraqi security forces that it's the Ashrafis who are refusing to bury them. After 41 days, the bodies started decomposing. And I kept telling them, this is not the Islamic teaching. In Islam, a body has to be quickly buried as soon as possible. And yet they were kept 41 days. And then when it came to burying them, I was asked to give a letter that Ashrafis are the ones who refused to bury them. And that was, again, the kind of issues that United Nations report never mention. And even if I mention it, it will never go beyond the office of the Special Representative of Secretary General, the SRSG. So this is let me be frank. It's Cobbler, but also the previous ones also contributed into setting this kind of perception about the Ashrafis and perpetrated the perception and also the stigma. Of course, since the arrival of SRSG Cobbler, things became so flagrant and so blatant that United Nations is there to close down Camp Ashraf, and that was clearly done by the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding.